This is Miracle Healings, and I am Leslie Williams. Bullying. We all heard this word, and if you didn't suffer from it, you probably know someone that struggled or already had went through very hard times with this. Myself, I did it, and it can lead us to trauma, to difficult times, hard times, a lot of pain. And it can happen in any stage of our lives, not only in childhood and teenage years, but as an adult in all kinds of different situations. And it can lead us to trouble and hard times in all kinds of different ways. But there's hope. And today's guest was not only able to overcome it, but heal from it. Vincent Infante, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yes, Vincent, your story, as we were saying before, it's so inspiring. And I think it's going to help so many people listening to what you went through, because this is a very important subject to talk about, right?
I agree.
Yeah, so if you can please start to share your incredible story with us.
Sure, thank you. So, I always had a lot of trouble fitting in as a kid. I've been bullied virtually my whole life. It starts out very innocent where you're in first grade and kids say you smell, and then it gets a little bit more severe as time progresses. And middle school, it started to pick up. And then high school was probably the absolute worst time of my life. And there were many, many factors. It wasn't just people calling me names. There were people that were actually throwing me in a trash can. There were people that were pushing me into lockers. There were people that wanted to just fight me because I was a weird kid. And there was really never a shortage of excuses for people to pick on me. And so there was this trouble that I had while I was at school. And then there were issues that I had in my own family life. And there was issues mostly from my brother causing some chaos in the house. So what winds up happening is a kid that's getting bullied at school loses his self-esteem, his happiness, his lust for life. And then he goes home where he would hope that he could get some reprieve from the day. And there's more chaos going on there. This is a lot to deal with for anyone, including myself. And during these times, I had a lot of depression, high levels of anxiety. I was trying to miss as much school as possible. And I was actually making myself sick to avoid going to school. And I would beg my mom to, please call me out. I'm sick today. And then the minute she would make that phone call, she'd be like, wow, you seem a lot better. I'd be like, oh. And it's truly incredible how sick we can actually make ourselves just from anxiety, fear, depression, all these things. And so when I would go to school, I would spend a lot of my time in my principal's office. He was actually a counselor of mine. And there was, one specific day that was really always going to stick out in my mind. And it was the day that I was sitting there. And I remember just feeling very fed up with life. And I told him, I don't want to do this anymore. And he said, well, what is this? What is it? And I said, well, just life. I don't want to do it. I'm not happy. I don't want to be here.
How old were you when that happened?
I would say I was in junior year. So I was probably about 16. And as we sat there, it had dawned on me just how miserable I was in life. And for a 16-year-old, that's not really supposed to be the case, right? And so he slid this piece of paper across the desk to me. And he asked me, where are you on that sheet? Now, at the time, I'm 16. I don't really know what this sheet is. But as I would go through college, I would learn this is a suicide assessment. And so it said ideation, planning, and attempts. And I had to pause for a minute to actually even take in, is this really what my life is at this moment? And then I pointed to planning. And I kind of just broke down crying because the harsh realization that you've been thinking over and over of the ways to, commit suicide is actually not a great feeling. And he had asked me, do you need help? How do you feel? And I said, I think I'll be okay. I believe in God. I have God. And, I'm not going to do anything at the end of the day.
So he was the first person in all those times that kind of received you,
Yes.
right?
And
How
I also,
important is to have just someone,
Mhm.
one, and I mean, a person to listen to, right?
100%,
Mhm.
and I never told my parents because I felt like they had their hands very full with my brother. And I also didn't
Oh,
want to
so
tell my parents.
you didn't share that with your parents.
No, I didn't feel like I wanted to, honestly,
This is
and my
so
parents,
important that what you're sharing, Vincent, because there might be other teenagers that are listening to it right now and going through exactly the same situation,
yeah,
right? You kind of isolate yourself, right, in a cocoon,
mhm, yes.
right? Wow.
And that's a big thing. My parents never knew. And
Mhm.
I've told this story before, so they know now. And they're like, we
Right.
never knew. I mean, my mom, she always somewhat knew, that woman intuition, that mother son bond never leaves. She would always ask me what's wrong, and I'd say nothing. But
Right.
it's hard as a kid to want to tell someone that you feel that way. Especially, there's a lot of fear. I have thought about, oh man, what if somebody tries to send me to a hospital? You see the TV shows and all this.
Right.
And so you build that image in your head, and it gets very uncomfortable to tell people. But
Mhm.
having the having my principal as someone I could confide in was a little bit easier because he wasn't as close to home. And there's also the fear too, right? Where a lot of the times, if you tell your parents and they get involved, you get bullied worse.
Right.
You
Exactly. So that
right.
kind of fear. Hmm.
And I had the experience in middle school where I told my dean I was getting bullied, and he actually turned the situation around on me, and I got in trouble.
Oh, okay.
So
So,
I've had experiences where I just wasn't comfortable sharing with people, and
mm.
that was a big thing for me. So
Yeah,
my
and it's so
parents,
important, as we mentioned before, just to be able to vent,
Mhm.
right? That's kind of what you did with the principal in that moment because you have all that inside of you, right, for so many years.
Yeah, yeah, and progressively getting worse. And
Right.
and so when I left his office that day, he asked me, "Have you
Hmm.
told anyone?" And he said, "Did you find a time to tell your parents about this?" I'm like, "Well, when is a good time to tell your parents you're kind of ready to commit suicide? So if you found
Right.
one, let me know. I don't know of any of those." So I had been dealing with this up until I graduated. And when I graduated, I had thought this was a time to reinvent myself. This was going to be a great opportunity to create a new me. And so
Hmm.
I had gone to college, and I applied for college as Vincenzo. My name is Vincent. And I made a
Hmm.
very, very slight shift. It actually wasn't legal, but all of my diplomas say Vincenzo.
Oh, you
And
actually did
yeah,
it. Right.
I
You
did.
went really all the way.
I did. So now it's funny. People look at my degrees,
Now
they'll
I
say
am
Vincenzo.
Italian.
That's it. And so I needed to reinvent myself. I was sick and tired of being this kid that had no friends, had trouble talking to girls, couldn't even get a girlfriend. I was weak. I was a little not massively overweight, but I was a little chubby. Kids would make fun of me for like my chest, and they would call me man tits and all this, and I hated that. And so I wanted to get rid of all of it. And so going into
Eat it.
college, just get rid of it, just delete it. And so going into
Hmm.
college, I said, we're forgetting Vincent. Vincent doesn't exist. We're Vincenzo now. And Vincenzo's going to work out. He's going to dress cool. He's going to grow a beard. He's going to get a cool car. And all of these things were things that I thought would work. And they actually did. I didn't do too great in high school. Obviously, I had to graduate with a 70 average and all this. And I was always trying to miss school and highly addicted to video games and just immersing in that world because they were such a big part of my life, a huge escape from my pain. And
Right. And
college,
it's easy addiction when you are going through so much in your life as a teenager, right? It's
yeah.
so easy to addict to that, to escape from all
Hmm.
the right.
Yeah. Well, it was actually funny. I heard this a long time ago. And it was a quote that somebody made for gamers, and it said, "I'm not a gamer because I have no life. I'm a gamer because I choose to have many lives." And that's the
Mhm.
really cool reality of video games, right? When I was this weak kid in real life, I was able to play a paladin, which is a holy warrior in a medieval fantasy game, or I would be able to play a soldier in a combat game, or I could be a famous race car driver.
Mm.
You really do get to have all these amazing lives and do all of these amazing things and see the world that you might never see in a video game. And
Mhm.
that was the biggest joy for me,
Mhm.
trying to be someone else. And I got to do
Right.
it, but it didn't
Right.
help with my reality, right?
Mhm. Because it's
So
not reality, right?
exactly, it's not. So as I got to college and I created Vincenzo, it actually worked perfectly. I started making tons of friends. Girls were very
Mhm.
interested in me, but I still didn't know how to talk to them. And I started dressing cooler, and I just became a mirror of everyone, actually. So I'd meet somebody and they'd be like, "Oh, I do this." I'm like, "Wow, that sounds awesome. We should do that." Like, and boom, all of a sudden you make friends. And so this was now
Mhm.
a technique I learned about how to make friends quickly, but it still didn't have any genuine aspects of me. And so as
Right.
I was going through all of this time, still trying to find myself, I still wasn't finding happiness. I was finding everything else, friends, this,
Because
that.
you were acting, right? And Vincenzo.
Correct. The great actor Vincenzo. And I improved a lot. I actually graduated college in honors. I was in Psychi National Honor Society as I
Wow.
got my bachelor's degree in psych. I got accepted to every master's program I applied for.
Wow.
And this was coming from a kid who only got into a community college because my grades were so bad. And
Mhm.
there was a lot of great things going for me. I became a personal trainer. I got a job at a hospital. It was my first job in mental health was actually at 18. I was a mental health worker at a hospital, and I would help run group
Right.
therapy sessions. And I was doing all of these amazing things. And you would think I was
Mhm.
so well put together, and I
Mhm.
wasn't. On the inside, I was still depressed and sad and this person. And now, as I
Mhm.
went for my master's program in social work and to become a psychotherapist, I
Mhm.
was getting worse. I was actually having a lot of mental breakdowns. I had my
Wow.
therapist, who this poor man was virtually on call. I would text him, I would call him, I'd say, "Please, I need a session." And this poor guy would deal with me. I was every therapist's worst client. Like, I wouldn't wish me on anyone. And so this guy dealt with me, and he would make a lot of time for me and hold a lot of space for me. But it
Mhm.
wasn't helping still, because it was just creating dependency. Now I was becoming codependent on my therapist.
Yeah,
I
you're
couldn't
giving the
deal with anything.
power to your therapist, right?
Correct. And
And creating codependency. Yeah.
yes, it was very disempowering. Despite how helpful he was trying to be, it made me worse. And
Right.
I realized that later, not at the time. At the time,
Yeah,
I
and
needed it.
codependency is something that it's so subtle for us to realize, right?
Hmm.
That we are in this relationship, right? And to get out of it, right?
Yes. And I had also been bringing that energy as I would reflect on my past self. I was bringing that energy into relationships with girlfriends. I was
Oh,
a
okay.
lot to deal with, and I'm sorry to all of them. I
Mhm.
I was, bringing it into friendships. I would get offended and hurt every time someone wouldn't invite me out, or there was just a lot
Mhm.
of anger and sadness kept inside of me,
Right.
manifesting in all different ways: panic attacks, stints of depression, not wanting to get out of bed for weeks. It was becoming so terrible that my therapist wanted to put me on meds. He's like, "I think we should get you on medication for depression." And I was like, "You're out of your
Mhm.
mind. I'm not going on medication." I refused. And
I like
so
that.
thank you. And so now we come to the point where I'm 23. I graduated with my master's. I believe the youngest person in the school to get their master's. And
Mhm.
I was working two jobs. I just finished my master's program. I was personal trainer still. I was doing the mental health work. I had a really cool car. I had a Camaro, for anyone who knows what that is. And I looked like the most put together guy. I had a girlfriend. I was so everything. And yet
Mhm.
my internals were just, one string away from a mental breakdown. And at
Mhm.
23, once I graduated, I did probably what any depressed person would do. I quit both of my jobs and didn't look for another.
Right.
And I didn't feel I wanted to. I saved a lot of money. I had a lot of money on my hands. And I was also blowing through that very quickly because you do nothing and, you just spend money to try and make yourself feel better. I was going out all the time.
Right.
I was making some expensive investments. I went and started getting my tattoos, and this, I have my chest down to my, my wrist, and this was a couple thousand. And so, spend a couple thousand here, you go get a new car, you do this, you're out every night with your friends. Money was flying out. And I was still struggling. Like, why am I not happy? What am I missing?
Right.
And it was a very Hallmark movie-esque moment for me that I kind of just stood in the bathroom and I was frustrated and I was pissed and all the emotions were flowing through me. And I looked in the mirror and I'm just thinking, like, what am I missing? And as I looked in the mirror, I got this kind of this feeling, this chill almost. And I realized what it was. And I just said, "You're Vincent." And that was the first time in about 7 years I said my own name, my actual name. Because everyone had been calling me Vincenzo. Everyone's known me as Vincenzo. My degrees are Vincenzo. But Vincent was gone for God knows how long. And I felt this weird, I still get chills. I'm still feeling it. I still get chills every time I tell this story. And I felt this calm that just kind of came over me. And it's hard to explain because I don't know if people experience this or if this was just truly unique as my moment. But the calmness and the peace that I felt when I said my name was just completely freeing.
Because you were the truth.
Yeah.
Your truth. Absolutely true. Right?
That's it. Yeah. It was my truth. It was me taking my power back.
Yes. And stop avoiding the truth of who you are.
Yes. And that's the biggest part of it. When you take your power, your personal power, you start changing your life. See, for so long, what I have realized, and at the end of the day, I didn't realize this stuff at 23. I'm going on 30 now. So I have about 7 more years after that. And that I've been able to self-reflect and also grow my knowledge and learn so much more. And I look back and I've realized this. I've realized many things. Is one, I was trying to avoid pain. I was trying to push it down, ignore it. It doesn't exist.
Right.
Vincent's a loser. We're not going to
build But it was
Vincent.
Still there. It's going to be there, right? Until we deal with it.
That's right. And I'll tell you a little corny joke. They say denial isn't just a river in Egypt, right? That giant river.
Oh, yes, exactly. Yeah.
And so I think about that every time I tell this story. That stupid joke pops to mind because I was denying myself. I was denying who I was. And in so, I was also not resolving my pain. And you see, when you don't resolve pain and you don't own it, you can't change it. I've learned about extreme ownership in this lifetime. And that's that everything that happens in your life is for you to own. Though you can't control what people do to you, you can always control how you respond to it. The meaning you give it, the power, the emotion, these you can control. And so when we try to repress the pain and we try to say, well, that pain isn't mine or that pain is because of that person, we take away our power. Right. Yeah. And that person was the one that caused the pain. But if we can't own it, we can't change it.
Exactly. And you're just spending your energy in projection. Oh, this one is guilty and that one is guilty. I feel this way because of that person, because he did that to me. He put me in the trash can. Look the way I am. But then, as you said, you're just putting out there all this energy and it's density, a lot of density. And then you don't go to the acceptance, right?
Right.
I have pain. Yes.
Yeah. And so I think that moment for me, taking back my name, was when I actually started changing my life. That was when I had learned turning your pain into power. And this was one of the biggest things that I look to inspire when working with other people now, because it's extreme ownership. A lot of people don't realize if you can't own it, you can't change it. And that's why I repeat this time and time again, because the only reason I've been able to get over things. Now I've gone to new levels. Once I owned my life and owned my pain, I've now been able to use forgiveness. I've been able to use empathy and compassion.
Exactly.
there's so many new things that come just from, it's like levels in a video game. You have to unlock level 1 to get to level 2. So my level 1 was pain. Level 2 was learning about empathy, then compassion, forgiveness, and it just keeps going. And then you grow as a person. And so this has been a very long journey for me. And I still try to implement this to this day, where I turn, I still feel anger. I still feel pain. I'm not perfect.
We all do.
We all do.
We all do.
We all do. And I still implement this to this day, because it's once you do it, once you learn it, it's just practice. And people think it's impossible. I work with clients now that, they'll come to me and they'll say, oh, I've been bullied, or like my parents hurt me, or this or that. And I ask them, did you ever try forgiving them? Oh, no, I can't do that. You can't do that. Well, if I got a story for you. And then I try to connect with them and model and teach them that this is the way to actual true healing and growth.
Right. So after that moment in the bathroom, right? How this inner shift with the emotions, with the pain started? What exactly did you do?
Yeah. So in that moment, after I felt that peace and that calm, I had said to myself, this is where you're supposed to be, right? Like everything that's been going on in your life has been leading you back to being yourself. And I brought it, in a sense, to the very conscious level, that what I was missing was me, right? I had to become someone else to realize the only person I ever wanted to be was myself.
Right.
And so after that, I started getting more in touch with myself, and I started saying, well, what does Vin want to do? Now, in this time, because I still don't have a job, this made it a little easier. So I don't know if anyone listening is going to have a couple months off, but
well, with the pandemic now,
well, with the pandemic, maybe they have work and they're depressed, or, but for me, I started asking myself more of, well, what does Vin want to do? What will make me happy? And there was a little bit of a learning curve, because I was so busy just being everyone else. But I had asked myself, okay, let's start with what we know. Does this make me happy? Yes or no? No, I'm done with it. This? Yes, it does. Let me explore this more. And when I ask people all the time, what makes you happy? And they're like, I don't know. Well, what do you currently do in your life? You start with what you know. And so my start was that. What does make me happy? What doesn't? Let me either keep it or push it out. The next thing I started doing was working on my appreciation for life, my gratitude. I truly love nature. I think nature's beautiful. So I spent a lot of time trying to get out there and saying, I appreciate the sunset. I appreciate the path. I appreciate the trees.
And that's the unconditional loving energy in nature. So you put yourself to receive all that.
Yes. And I think that was super important for me. And I also try to then get to a place and a level where I felt I was able to understand others and start doing a little bit of empathy.
Right.
And one thing that was really big was learning the term hurt people, because it takes the personal affect out of the pain. See, when I was still internalizing pain, it was extremely personal to me. It was extremely pain-ridden because I made it so. And I never looked at, well, this person has hurt me because this person is hurt. Instead, I was saying, well, this person's hurting me because they're hurting me. And they want to bully me. Right.
Yes.
Right. And I say it all the time.
So you add something very important, understanding, right? Not only about yourself, but understanding regarding others and a new perspective of, okay, why people do that? Why people might be bullying me? Why they're doing these things to me? Maybe because inside of them, they have a lot of stuff going on as well, right? Amazing.
Yeah, we never know. We never know. Back when my brother was causing all sorts of chaos, I had confronted him years later, and I told him, half of my pain was due to him. And he said to me, he said, I never knew what you were going through. I didn't even know
Exactly.
all the pain that I was causing you. He said, but I wasn't in the right state of mind. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for
Because
everything I've ever
people
done to you.
like you were unconscious of your pain for such a long time, and you create, right,
Mhm.
Vincenzo to avoid. A lot of people spend long time and even the entire life completely clueless about what's going on inside and unconscious of what they are doing to others, right?
Yeah,
Because it's a tough job to look inwards, right? It demands courage, it demands patience, it demands acceptance, and a lot of people keep avoiding, right?
yeah,
Amazing.
100%. And it's so funny too, because I'll tell you another story about these kids that I met years later, the one that bullied me. And I saw them and they were talking about, oh, how fun high school was and this, that. And I said, wasn't fun for me. And they're like, why? I was like, you guys all made fun of me. You guys all bullied me. And they were like, ah, come on, man. We were just joking around. It was dumb high school kid stuff. Like, we weren't being serious. We didn't mean anything by it. And it was so fascinating to me because now at this point, I had already kind of forgiven them, right? I didn't even know if
Mm,
I was ever going to see them again. So I had to do the work to just let it go and release it.
right.
But it was so fascinating to me to even hear those words because you would
Mm-hmm.
think throwing someone in a trash can might hurt them. You might think throwing someone into a locker might hurt them. You might think making fun of them in front of other people might bother them. But the
Right.
state of mind that these guys really had was, well, it didn't mean nothing.
Fun.
We were just being
Yeah.
fun.
We're just having
And
fun.
and how do you stay angry at someone that's unaware? And that's a big practice for me.
Yes.
You know, if you're not aware, it's very hard to make it
Yeah,
personal. And
exactly.
that's what we do.
Hmm. And I think it's very important what you're bringing. It's not excuses. It's not excuse. It's just understanding that there's always a reason why, right?
Hmm.
In this case, these kids were just, whoa, having fun. It might be that a few of them or one of them was hurt, right? Like you said,
Hmm.
and was doing that. But there's a difference, and forgiveness help us to understand, to accept. um, it's incredible that you were able to, and see these guys again and have this opportunity.
Yeah, I think it was great for me too because listen, not everyone's going to get that opportunity.
Yeah,
I I
I
wound up
didn't.
seeing them again by chance, right? And that's a big part of it. You may not,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so you have to come to a place of forgiveness first. Like I was able to forgive them before I even saw them. I had already done the work to learn about how people hurt people because of their, maybe their life isn't that great, maybe they're an unaware
Yeah.
person, and so I already made that choice that I was going to let it go. Hearing them say that though gave me a whole new view, a whole new affirmation that
Mm-hmm.
though someone may be clueless and it doesn't fully excuse them, it does say that it's not as personal as we make it because that's where so much of the pain comes
Yeah,
from.
exactly. You take too personal. They did it to me, right? And
Yeah.
because, of course, because we are immersed in the situation. I was like you. I started when I was, I think, maybe 5 or 6 years old, and it went to all my teenage years as well. And we take it personally because, we don't know better.
Right, because it's
Yeah.
happening to us. And and
Mm-hmm.
and so it was really important to come to that moment and come to that realization and to be able to release and forgive and
Yeah.
let go and just want to move
Mhm.
forward. And I've even developed a little bit of gratitude towards it because
Exactly.
understanding, well, here's the cool part. Understanding that it's not personal was empowering. But another
Hmm.
aspect is I'm still here today. I'm still thriving. I am stronger and I am better. And aside
Yeah.
from that gratitude, I'm also grateful they didn't do it to someone else that wouldn't have been able to take it. And
Yeah.
that's like a whoa moment when you could have that because we hear all the time of kids killing themselves from bullying. They couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
They couldn't do this.
Yes.
Luckily, they did it to me. What if they did it to one of those kids? What if they did it to
Yeah.
someone else?
Right. And the gratitude also for the experience, for the struggle, for the pain, for living all this that made us stronger and capable to, as you said, understand and have acceptance and do better with ourselves and get to know ourselves, right?
Hmm.
I'm very grateful for all that I went through too.
Me too.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
change it. Who else can say they were thrown in a trash can?
Yeah. Yeah, I was born with a lot of physical issues. I have my legs crooked, my hands were like this, and I was totally strabic, and my teeth were coming off. So kids will go to the board and draw, my face with big glasses and crazy stuff.
Wow.
and and for me, one of the things that I think it's important to bring, it's that I understood that a lot of them were insecure. I was
Hmm.
feeling a lot of insecurity. I was feeling a lot of humiliation, but feeling like that, I also understood that um, sometimes people do things because they are also insecure, right?
Yeah,
As you said,
100%.
understand all these things, forgive, let go, and move on, right? Do
Yeah.
you had how fate uh, came in all this beautiful story? Do you have any moments of faith? Do you believe in God? How that happened with your healing?
I think faith has always been a very interesting thing for me because I've gone through, I was raised Catholic. I
Hmm.
found the Catholic Church to be, Catholic churches are absolutely beautiful. I will spend all day in one as long as nobody makes me be a part of a mass because I find Catholic masses to be abhorrently boring. And
Hmm.
so it pushed me away from church because I actually wanted to go to church to meditate and just be one with God. However, there'd be masses going on and I didn't want to be a part of them because they were too rigid, too structured. It was very solemn.
Hmm.
I wound up then
Hmm.
starting to believe more in the power and energy of the universe. And I was giving God more of a just energy form.
Yes.
And that one started to really work out great for me until one
Hmm.
day, a friend of mine who has a very similar belief had said, I think you might like this place that might connect you with God a little more. And I said, well, what is it? And he said, I'll tell you, it's kind of like being at a rock band, but for God. And I was like, well, all right, let's see what that's about. So my friend, we live in New York. So my friend took me into Manhattan, and there's this big mega church called Hillsong. Hillsong's all over the world, but they have a really, really big foundation and following in New York City. And Hillsong is a Christian church. So they still have, similar beliefs to Catholic, but not exactly alike. And you would go there, so they would still read from the Bible, and their
Hmm.
worship was completely different. In Catholic church, you bow your head and you're very quiet, and the priest would
Hmm.
read. But in Christian church, they have a live band playing
Yes.
music, and they're
Yes.
like, "All right, everybody, we're gonna worship. Do what you want." We'd be like, "Yeah!"
Yes.
And it was an amazing
You're
feeling.
leaving it because you're leaving the connection with God, right?
Yes. So
That's
it was a
beautiful.
beautiful feeling. It was amazing to actually stand there, feel this was the big feeling the energy in the room in a Catholic church.
Yeah.
And I'm not knocking Catholic church. I grew up Catholic. I have my
It's
baptism, my
just different
confirmation.
approach,
Hmm.
right?
Right. And I found so much joy at a Christian church because the
Hmm.
energy was amazing. And I loved it. And I even volunteered and became a part of the crew, which would be responsible for breaking down the stage and, packing up the church after. And service
Hmm.
would end at 9 p.m. and we'd leave at 1 a.m.
Hmm.
And I made some awesome church friends. And I still think to this day, I have a bit of a flowy belief I 100% believe there's a God, but I have a flowy belief. I don't know if God's a specific person. I believe that we are all, this is a little hippie-ish, but I believe we're all God because God created us, but the
Yeah.
universe is, and we're all connected with,
Yeah.
the fact that we were created. So I have a very flowy belief,
Yeah.
but I still enjoy the energy of Christian churches. I love them. I enjoy
Hmm.
my belief that God is everywhere and everything and us. And
Hmm.
that's not in hand with Christianity. I do believe that we'll probably come back as something, that there's reincarnation. And I take bits and pieces from each religion because I think each religion was inspired from some high level of spirituality regardless. And perhaps maybe all the religions are right, and they're just meant to be pages in a book as opposed to, separate books.
So you definitely finding God in you, finding this connection, finding the faith in you helped you with your healing process.
100%. I think when we surrender to believing that there is more to life than just our self, it becomes so much more powerful. So much more powerful.
It does. And now I would like to hear a little bit about what you do, because you were talking about your clients. So after all this beautiful journey, now you are serving others with all the experience that you have, right?
Yeah. So I've been serving others for, over 10 years now. I started in mental health at 18. I'm about to be 30 this year. And I had been able to live out two of my childhood dreams. I always wanted to be a firefighter, and I always wanted to be a psychotherapist. Last year, or about 2 years ago, I was called to become a firefighter for New York City. I took the call. I was a psychotherapist at the time, and I left my private practice with a caseload of 40 people, and that was extremely hard to say goodbye. But I left that. I became a firefighter, and I started full-fledged my life coaching career. I am currently a full-time life coach. I wound up leaving the fire department as my practice grew, and I got my life coaching certification under Tony Robbins. And I am also still a licensed psychotherapist. So now when I work with clients, I bring my experience, I bring my coaching, I bring my therapy background, and I just do it full time. And I absolutely love it. There's nothing better that I could have ever hoped for in my life.
That's wonderful. Being able to live your purpose.
Yes. And it's hard. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It's a hard, scary road. Leaving the fire department was difficult. Starting my own business and being an entrepreneur was extremely difficult. There's ups and downs like no other. 1 week, you're going to feel on top of the world. Like, oh my God, I just made $8,000. And then next week, holy crap, I made $200. and it's scary, but it's so worth it. It's for anyone that is dreaming of being an entrepreneur. If you have the stomach for it, I would say go for it.
Yes. Yes. I'm so happy. What is the biggest life lesson?
My biggest life lesson is to live in your heart space and do everything out of love and look at people with love. Where there's anger, replace it with love. Where there's pain, replace it with love. Replace it with heartfelt understanding. Replace it with kindness and compassion, even for yourself and for others. And I think that's also in line with, living with a belief in God. I'm not going to be too spiritual, but I think if you believe in God, God is love. And for you to act out of love is to be closer to God.
Exactly.
And so I try to implement all of these things all the time. I am a very understanding person, not because I'm a saint, not because I'm better than anyone, but because I try to be. It's a practice.
Because you went through a experience and a process that made you understand, right?
Yeah. And now it's just second nature. People hurt me. I still get hurt. I mean, heck, I was hurt weeks ago. But at the end of the day, it's different for me now. Now you hurt me and I'm saying, that's a shame. That's a shame that there's something going on in your life. And though I'm not going to allow you back into mine, I'm not mad at you. See, there's a difference. People also think that. Knowing if you're truly forgiving someone, oh, I have to let them back in my life. No, you don't. You could forgive someone.
You're just moving forward and your heart forgiving, and you just move forward. You might be because you shift your energy, you're vibrating another, in a different vibration than that person. That's it.
100%. Yes.
Yeah. And after all that, would you say that life is beautiful?
I think life is extremely beautiful. Even the pain points.
Yes.
They are more so just challenges. They're there to challenge you to grow and ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn from this? What am I supposed to take on from this? I have been able to really learn a lot about this, and I'm super happy. And I'll even give you one funny thing. I had a client and I said, "You got a parking ticket. Do you think you could be grateful for that?" And they're like, "No. Why would I want to pay a parking ticket? It's only a waste of it's a waste of $35. And that guy's probably a jerk." And I'm like,
Mhm.
sure, that's one way to look at it. But when you really want to become a more understanding person and ask how the universe and the world challenges you to grow, you could
Mhm.
say, well, maybe that parking ticket was there to teach me to be more mindful of my surroundings. Maybe that parking
Mhm.
ticket was begging me to be more responsible and have a more diligent mindset. Maybe that parking
Mhm.
ticket is telling me that there's something that I need to be doing in my life, which is causing me to be unaware of other things. Maybe
Mhm.
maybe I'm lacking responsibility.
Yes,
Nobody would ever say
exactly.
that about a parking ticket. People only want to
Yeah.
complain about them.
Yeah, I love this. I love it. Vincent, thank you so much. It was incredible to hear your beautiful story. Thank you for being the show today.
Thank you, Leslie. And I appreciate hearing parts of your story and how you were bullied. And I mean, everybody missed out. You are a radiant woman. So whoever made fun of you, they didn't even know it was coming.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Miracle Healings can be found at www.theselfartist.com on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Look for Self Artists. And if you'd like to share your story, or if you know someone that you might be interested in share their story, please don't hesitate and get in touch with me via Leslie Williams at theselfartist.com. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget, life is beautiful.